Hey there, welcome back to another episode of Robotics. So what we want to do today is explore a new sensor from our Barnabas Rover kit. So this is it right here. This is an infrared sensor. We actually have two of them in the kit. Today we're just going to be working with one. So go ahead and grab one of them and check it out. So the first thing that you'll notice is we have two different LEDs. There's a black one and then a clear one. All right, and the way that it works is that you're gonna have IR or infrared light sent out through the clear one here, and then as it's sent out, we have another LED here, which is an infrared detector. So what it can do is it can actually detect any infrared light that is being shined back to it. And let's see, what else do we have here? We have these three pins here. We have out, GND, and also VCC. All right. Now GND and VCC, that's just going to be the power for our sensor here. So GND for is going to be the minus of the power, and VCC is going to be the plus of the power. Out is going to be the signal that is going to be sent back to our Barnabas rover here. All right, and that's going to be used by the Uno so that it can tell if something has been detected. Now, how does this thing work? So we have infrared being sent out here, infrared being received here. So what's going on? Well, infrared is actually sent out, and let's see, I have my hand right here, right? My hand will actually bounce back infrared being sent off of this, kind of like sound, or if you're very visual, just think of it like a tennis ball. Imagine the tennis ball is like infrared light. So we have little infrared tennis balls being sent out by this light here. It bounces off my hand and then comes back and hits the detector here, and so that's how this works. And so if you have any object that is close up to it, the infrared is going to bounce off and then come back here, and then that signal will be sent on the out pin here. Now, what's nice about that is that this can actually detect if objects are near. So it's kind of like an ultrasonic sensor, but it's a lot easier. You don't have to worry about the math that we had to do for the ultrasonic sensor. And then all the coding and even the wiring is a lot easier. Now, the downside of this, though, when comparing to the ultrasonic sensor, is that the ultrasonic sensor, you can determine distance. Like you can say, my hand is 5 centimeters away, my hand is 10 centimeters away, my hand is 20 centimeters away. You can't really tell that with the IR sensor. You can only tell basically if it's there or if it's not there. Okay, so that's a downside. Now, there's one thing I haven't talked about yet. What about this thing right here? What's this dial about? Well, this dial controls the sensitivity of your IR sensor. Okay, so if you turn it all the way one way, and we'll experiment with it, all the way one way, it's going to be not sensitive at all. So meaning that if light is getting, or IR is being bounced back to the receiver, it won't detect it because it's basically ignoring it. And then if you turn it all the way the other way, it's going to be super sensitive. So basically, like any IR coming into it, it will trigger. So we're going to have to adjust that as well, because if it's too sensitive, it's going to think that there are objects all the time. If it's not sensitive enough, it's going to think that there's never an object. Okay, so first let's go ahead and wire this thing. I'm going to do a quick diagram, and we'll try it out. All right, so let me go to my next screen here. All right, so we have my and let's just connect 5V to, yes, I forgot to draw my sensor here. We have, if I turn it this way, all right, turn it that way, we have out, we have GND, and VCC. All right, so out is going to be connected to a pin that we're going to use for coding later. We're going to ignore that for now. We're just going to connect GND to GND and VCC to 5V. Okay? We will be able to test our sensor without any coding, which is kind of nice. So let's go ahead and make these connections and see what we can do. All right, so here's one of these. You're going to need these socket to pin connectors in order to do this, okay? All right, so let's take one. This is going to be my VCC. All right, and then I take my robot here, and where is their VCC? There's a bunch of them already. Since we're pros at breadboarding, I'm just going to put it in. Okay. That's VCC there. And then I need a GND. Okay, I'm going to use green this time for GND. Put this into GND. And then the other side here to a GND row, which is also on my breadboard. Okay. And so that's all we're going to do right now. We're just going to have it loose like this to do some testing. Now it's not on because I don't have power, so I'm going to go ahead and put this power in. All right. And what I want you to notice is you see the power light, this LED right here, turned on. So that's a good sign. That means that I'm giving it enough power for it to turn on. And if I put my hand in front of it, you see it doesn't do anything. I want you to notice that there's another LED here, right here, where my screwdriver is pointing at, and it's not turning on. We want it to turn on because it turns on whenever it detects something. You remember how it works. It turns on whenever IR, infrared, is being bounced off my hand and back into the detector. But now it's not working at all. So maybe it's not sensitive enough. So I'm going to take a screwdriver, and you have a screwdriver in your kit. I'm going to turn it all the way, we orient counterclockwise. So it looks like it's already all the way counterclockwise, and so that means it's probably totally insensitive. So let's turn it up a little bit. I just turned it clockwise a little bit, and check that out. Now when I put my hand in front of it, it is detecting it. Very nice. Okay, so that's the first thing to do, is just power it on and then turn this dial here so that it works properly, so that if you put your hand in front of it, the light turns on. If you take your hand away, the light should turn off. Okay, now just so you can see, if I turned it all the way sensitive, it's like all the way clockwise, look what happens. It's just triggered all the time. See, that LED is on all the time, no matter what. We don't want that, right? That's not very helpful. So it's going to be somewhere in the middle like that. That works. Okay, that's cool. Now there's another thing about IR sensors, or infrared in general, that's kind of interesting, that I want to talk about, because that's going to be helpful to us. Okay, so going back to the whiteboard here, remember we have, I'm going to move this down. Remember we have two LEDs. All right, we have a transmitter that's clear, and then we have a receiver. Okay, T for transmit and R for receive. And we know that if we put an object, a hand in this case, that the IR goes out and it bounces back to the receiver, and then everything's good. So that's we already knew that, and we proved that it works. Now, here's another thing. Does it matter what color your object is? You might think it doesn't, but it actually does matter what color. And so here's the thing. If I have an object that is black colored, what happens is this. I'm going to erase our IR arrows, okay? You have IR that gets shot into the black object, and what happens is that the black object actually absorbs IR, and so what happens is that you're gonna get a bunch of it absorbed, and then maybe a very small amount. So I'm gonna just do some dots here. Comes back. So maybe it doesn't fully absorb all of it, but most of it, and how that happens is basically, way you can think about it. The darker the material, the more IR gets absorbed on this area, on this object, and then less comes back. Okay. The way I like to think about it is kind of like when it's hot outside, you don't want to wear black because black absorbs a lot of the heat versus like a reflective thing like white, right? So, and then anyone who's worn like a black t-shirt on a hot day, you've experienced that. You're like, I should not have worn the black t-shirt because I am hotter than everyone because of it, right? So that's the easy way to remember. The IR detection thing works the same way, okay? A black object is going to absorb the IR, and so that very little bit of it comes back. And so if you put a black object, like imagine my hand was totally black, the idea is that this light wouldn't turn on because most of it, the IR is being absorbed into my black hand, but my hand is not black right now, so it's not doing that. It's actually reflecting back and triggering. So what I'm going to do is actually get some electrical tape, and I'm going to see if this is true, if my experiment works. Okay, so here's some black electrical tape, and I'm going to put this tape in front of the IR sensor and see if it triggers. Okay, you see it's still triggering, so I failed. So is what I'm saying not true? What do we think here? Well, one thing I'm thinking is this, okay? So if you look at my drawing, I didn't say that the 100% of the IR gets absorbed. I said most of it, right? So maybe the black tape is absorbing, but I'm still too sensitive over here, right? So what I can do then is turn down my sensitivity and see if it works. So I'm going to turn it down by going clockwise. Sorry, counterclockwise will turn it down. So I'm going clockwise. And let's first make sure that my hand works. Okay, that works. And then now try the tape. If you look at it, the tape is still triggering. I'm going to change screens so that we can see the big view of it. Okay, so I think I'm still too sensitive possibly, so I'm going to make it really not sensitive. Okay, so now I'm so not sensitive that even my hand is not working. So let me turn it up a little bit. Okay, so right now it's sensitive enough to sense my hand. Let's hope that it's not sensitive enough to... Okay, you can see it's kind of... See, it's like almost, it's on the threshold. What I mean by that, it's like sometimes detecting and sometimes not. Okay. So I think what I need to do is turn it down a little bit more. But now, okay, so at this point, So here's something I just thought of. So as we see, it's pretty tricky to kind of find the right spot so that it detects an object, but it doesn't detect the black. All right, so here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna put these two lights right on the white table here, okay? And you see that my trigger light is off. I'm gonna slowly turn it clockwise just until it triggers. Okay. See, at that point, my light triggered. Okay, that tells me that that's the least amount of sensitivity it needs to turn on. Okay, when it sees this white table. Now, let's see if I put this in front of it. It's doing what I want it to do. Okay. All right. So it's a little bit tricky, right? You got to turn down the sensitivity till it works. And I'm going to try something here. Let's get this. I'm going to take a little piece of electrical tape, and I'm going to tape it to the table. Okay. Okay. Here's my strip here. Okay. So what we want to see happen is that if this is on the white table, it looks triggered, right? Because it's bouncing IRs, bouncing off the table and going back to the light. But that when I go over the black tape, the trigger should turn off. Let's see. I'm going. Ah, it's working. Back. Actually working pretty nice. Okay. So now that we have this situation, right? So we've set up our sensitivity so that every time I go on the black, it turns off. Now I can do something called line following. Okay. Or I guess to be precise, I can begin to do line following. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to get our robot to move on the white table, and then when it sees the black tape, it's going to turn off the sensor, and then it's going to tell the robot to stop. All right, so this will be a way, I guess our first exercise today will be to program the robot to move forward just to the line and then stop. I don't think that should be too hard. So let's go ahead and do that. Oh, and just why did I call it line following? I call it line following because if we add a second sensor, okay, doing this view here, a second sensor, imagine there's one right here and there's another one right here. We can program the robot so that the robot can, boom, it senses the black line, turn this way, boom, senses the black line, turn this way. It can go back and forth and follow the black line. Okay, so then if we do that, the coding is going to be a little bit more complicated, but maybe not too hard. So first, let's program one of these to work properly, and then we'll worry about that second sensor next time. All right. So going to our top right there, you see our code, or not code, our schematic drawing. GND5E's taken care of. Let's connect out to pin number 6 on the Uno. Okay. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna grab another one of these socket to pin wires. We're gonna go to out. Okay. Good. And then we need to connect to the Uno, but it doesn't quite reach, okay? Because we want this to be in the front like this. It won't reach, so I'm going to use the breadboard. So I'm going to put one pin here, this pin onto the breadboard here. Okay, And then I'm going to extend that row with a pin-to-pin wire. So I'm just take a pin-to-pin wire here. Okay, pin-to-pin. Put one side on that row I just made, and then I'll put the other side on pin number 6 on the Uno. Okay, and you can hardly see it because all these wires are here. Cool. So I'm just gonna go ahead and sticky foam this sensor right here on the front here. Okay, so let's do that. All right, I got my sticky foam. Let's just put that there. Put this there. That should hold it. Okay. Cool. And let's do some coding. All right. Here. And let's do some coding. All right. So here's my code from before. And right now, I don't have anything in the loop because I just want to do a new piece of code to test to make sure that this sensor works. All right. So first, let's make a int IR sensor pin equals 6, right? And let's set up my pin mode. IR sensor pin mode IR sensor pin, and it's going to be an input because the output's coming out from the sensor and going into the Uno, and we're going to read the status of that output. So it's an input that we're going to read. Okay, and the first thing, let's just experiment to make sure that everything is reading okay. So I'm going to serial print the digital read IR sensor pin. Okay, and I'm going to delay 100 so that it doesn't print too many things all at once. All right, so I'm going to upload this. Oh, I need to plug it in. So let's plug in. Okay, plugging in, connecting. All right, I'm uploaded. Let's do my serial monitor. And it's saying 1 right now. And when I go to the black line, it says 0. When I move off the black line, it says 1. Cool. All right, so I think we're good. So what we want to do now is use that into our code. All right. So when it's 1, we're on the white, and then when we're on the black, it's 0. So this is all we have to do. If digital read IR sensor pin equal 1, and what does this mean? This means I'm on the white table. I want to move forward, or forward, and I think my I have move forward. I have move forward no distance. The one that just keeps going. Move forward no distance. Right? Else, meaning that IR sensor is not 1, then I just want to stop. Okay, let's just see if this works. So basically when I upload, it should just start going and then stop when I hit the black tape. Oh, you know what? I think I got it flipped. So actually, maybe it said it the other way. I messed up that. Because right now it's moving forward when I'm on the black tape and stopping when I'm on. Okay. Yeah, that's interesting too, but we want it backwards, right? So I guess it's 0 when I'm on the white table. I want to move forward. Else I want to stop. Let's try again. Okay. Okay, so it is. This is interesting. Okay, a couple things I just noticed here. First thing, when I do it like this, it moves forward and it tries to stop, okay? But by the time, say if I let it go and just put it there, it stops just like I expect. But if I put it actually on the table, it goes. A lot of times it's trying to stop, but then by the time it actually stops, it's past the tape and it keeps going. Okay, so to fix that, how can I fix that? Let me just put it on here. Good. I'm gonna say, what if I just go more slowly? Let's try to go at 100 speed and maybe it won't do that. Okay. There. So now it's working, it's not overshooting. Here's another thing I noticed. I have a dark green mat. It also stops here. Okay. So that means that my dark green mat, it's not black, but it's black enough or dark enough that it absorbs the IR. Okay. Now, so here's a couple things that we've learned. Okay. Number one is that you need to set the screw on this guy to make sure the sensitivity is right, that it can detect the white part of the table and the black tape correctly. And we also noticed that it doesn't have to be black. It could also be a dark green here. Okay. The other thing is, another way I could have fixed this is if I added a thicker piece of tape, right? If the black tape was extra large, it would give it more time to slow down. And then lastly, I saw that the black tape was being detected, but my car was going too fast, like it was overshooting into the white area again, and then would keep going as well. So once we start doing the line following, we're gonna have to experiment with all these things to get to work correctly. All right, so that's all I have for you today. So we wired up and calibrated, like tested and made the settings on the IR sensor. We got it working correctly. We added it to code, and we were able to make it stop on the black tape. So the next video what we're going to do is we're going to add a second sensor and see if we can get it to actually follow a line. Okay. All right, that's all I have for you. Have fun with that.